Hey, everybody. We are back. It's Friday night, and this is Childbirth Class. I am really excited. I actually really love teaching the childbirth class on Friday night and Saturday night because I feel like I keep having to get to turn off my heater. I keep thinking about how awesome it is for all of you guys to show up on a Friday night and talk about childbirth. So I'm going to make it worth your while this Friday night, and we've got some great topics today. So if this is your first class or if this is your third class, let me know in the comments with the number which class this is for you. And if you're watching this on replay, leave a comment down below with the hashtag childbirth replay. We are getting about 200 people or so watching in replay, which is really exciting. And I forgot that I don't think I mentioned enough about the replay. The replays are available for a full 24 hours after the class ends. And then after that, they aren't available on YouTube anymore. Then they're available in the recordings. So just a little business note. I see we've got Anne at 3, Christine 3, Jay 3, Patty 3, Kayla 3, Miranda 3, Diana 3. High five, you guys. I love it. Love it, love it. Clarissa's here, second class, but watch the replay. Great. It is one of my favorite things about teaching YouTube is that every time we have such a great group of regulars that show up, and I feel like hopefully you guys in the chat are kind of getting to know each other a little bit too. And I'm starting to get to know you. Actually, last night, my husband asked me at dinner because I'm out on the West Coast in Seattle, and we have dinner after our class. And he said, how's your class? Do you have a good group? And every time I'm like, we have such a great group. So I love it. I love getting to know you guys in the chat. So welcome. Today, just like every class, we have a section on how birth works. Today, we're talking about contractions. So really the main plot in our childbirth story, talking about contractions. And we're going to also cover stages of labor and talk a little bit about coping techniques that we would be using in each stage of labor. Again, we're going to build on this, so you'll hear a lot of these things again, but we will talk about contractions. And we are going to talk about movement. So I tried to move back a little bit with my camera. It's a little bit hard to try to get some of the movement and positions on the screen, but that's okay. We are going to make it work. Welcome, everyone. Okay, my next question for you in the live chat is, as it's getting colder, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, so if you are in the Southern Hemisphere, you're on the flip side, having a warmer time right now. But if it is, as it gets colder, a lot of people have a harder time to remember to drink their water. So pregnancy and hydration is so important. So I want to check in on all of you about how is your hydration going. Let me know in the chat. You can give me a thumbs up. You can give me a thumbs down. Anything however you want to express. But are you doing a good job remembering to drink water? I say this because when I was kind of an early educator, I was teaching actually in the back of a Babies R Us in this classroom. It wasn't great, but anyway, I had this couple, and the mom had one of those tiny bottles, like for toddlers, like those little tiny disposable plastic bottles, and she sat it down next to her like a note. She had a notebook to take notes. And I kind of made note of it, like, that's a tiny little bottle. And I, was talking about what I usually do, talking about contractions or whatever, and talking about drinking in labor and hydration. And usually that's when people start like getting their water and sipping. And I asked her, and it turned out she only drank 2 of those a day, teeny tiny ones. So I actually stopped class, went into Babies R Us and got her some water. So hydration is so important. It can actually, dehydration can actually cause more Braxton Hicks, can cause contractions, and we don't want that. Contractions when we don't want them. So I'm looking real quick, and we've got, oh, Jay is overhydrating. So Jay, that can happen too if you're drinking too much. We've got Miranda's grabbing her water. Forget to track it. Yes. Okay. So it looks like we're kind of a mix of drinking enough and not drinking enough. So good. I'm glad to have a little check-in. I like this, Kayla. I am with you. Having a straw is key for me too. It makes all the difference. Oh, Diana agrees with that. You got to have the straw. Straw is key. Okay, good. Well, I wanted to have that quick check-in with you guys. Okay, before we get started, a quick reminder that we have this class. Oops, did that add? Here we go. We have our class directory page, and just a quick reminder that that's how you can find everything. So it is birthtoolbox.com/class. This link I update every day. Down here, this button, that'll take you to the class. And then these are our additional resources. If you are interested in purchasing additional resources, we have our class 1, class 2, and here is class 3. This is my donation button when I talk about supporting the class. If you want to support the class, sometimes I'll get people to ask, like, what's the best way to support the class? The Buy Me a Coffee link is a great way to support the class since it is free. That's an easy button. And then each day I set up a link to homework, which I saw that Anne was doing her homework. So high five to you, Anne. You got extra credit from the instructor. And then I have my featured product. These are affiliate products. So if you purchase through any of these links, I do get a portion of that. That helps support the channel. My featured resource, and then the recordings are here. And if you guys are interested, each night I make a little GIF or GIF or GIF. You guys know what I'm talking about from the class. And you can always check on that if you're curious to see what it turns out with. Okay, so just something I wanted to point out. And then the other last thing before we get started, I wanted to mention, I'm not sure if I did, inside the recordings is this really informative and I think super helpful ebook for partners. So it is a great quick start guide to supporting your partner in labor. So partners out there, if you have the recordings or you're thinking about getting the recordings, that is included in there too. Okay, let's pull up the slides and get started on talking about movement. Not movement, contractions. We got to talk contractions first. Let me pull up presentation mode. Okay, great. We got a whole command center of computers going on back here in the studio. So contractions, they are the work of labor. So contractions, like we talked about on day 1 when we talked about the cervix, contractions are what cause our cervix to go make those 4 changes, right? From this to this. And it's so strange to think that, I mean, this is a guess, that this quantity, this mass is the same as this. So this muscle turns into something that is thin and open. And that happens through the work of contractions. And I want, if your mindset is when you hear contractions, if you think, oh no, or sort of like feel negative about them, like, oh, that's not something I want, or I'm worried about them. Now is a great time, no matter where you are in your pregnancy, to start changing your mindset around contractions, because contractions are actually good. Contractions, when we are in labor, we want contractions. We want to go forward and make progress towards the end of the day. which is baby in our arms, right? And so even in labor, keeping that mindset of contractions are good are really going to help you, again, ride this wave and allow your body to make progress. Am I saying that takes away all the pain just thinking about contractions being good? No, I am not trying to say that, but I do think there is something to be said about having a mindset of welcoming contractions and not a mindset of not wanting contractions. Let me know in the chat if you guys can imagine that. So contractions are the work of labor. They are important and necessary. And I like this visual. You guys might have seen this before. It was an old childbirth ed demonstration that's been going on for years, that people started putting on TikTok and stuff, which is fun. But what you do is you put a ping pong ball inside of a balloon that's blown up, and the ping pong ball corks the bottoms. There doesn't come out, and if you push up like this, it eventually pops out. So it's kind of a good demonstration of the work of the contractions. But as you guys can see, this is like our uterus, the balloon, and then pushing up, the pulling up and the pushing down moves that ping pong ball, or baby in this case, down and out. So the push and the pull is what we need to make that happen. Also, I just got my first super chat. Thank you, Cromer's Peanuts. That is very super and very fun, and thank you. Every little bit helps to help support the channel. So thank you. If you've never seen a super chat before or been on a live stream that super chats, it's underneath. I don't have it on my screen because I have a different software, but it's like a little $sign. Okay, next to where you post a comment. Patty just saw that on Instagram. That's so funny. Very timely. Okay, so the work of contractions is the push down of the baby and the pull open of the cervix, just like our uterus is. And the uterus is a muscle. So the uterus is doing lots of work. Now, contractions, while we see a nice, beautiful mountain behind us, and then what looks like a bell curve in front. I want you guys to see this curve and really take heart that until you are feeling something that looks like this, where it starts, it peaks, and it stops, before then, you're either not having contractions or they're not contractions that are doing anything. So what often happens, especially the first time that you've given birth, but it happens for subsequent babies too, but a lot of times labor starts where things are just kind of like crampy and just sort of something that feels different, something feels off. I don't know what it is, but there's not a definite start, a definite peak, and a definite stop. And it is very normal in that beginning phase, before you feel the start, peak, and stop, to have a wonder of, is this labor? Is this not? And we're going to talk tomorrow all about how to deal with this and some strategies. But this is just your intro to this idea that it can start off kind of questionable, where you're not really sure. Again, not everybody's the same, but often people have a period before their contractions kind of hit this visualization. And this, as a doula, this is one of the first questions that I ask my clients if they call me or they text me and say something's going on. I think I'm having something and it's sort of regular, irregular, and I'll say, do you feel a definite start, peak, and stop? And if the answer is no, then we know that labor is in the way early phase, not quite getting together yet. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how they feel. Contractions, now they can feel different for everyone. Sometimes people feel them more in their back. We talked about back labor yesterday and the position of the baby, but usually people, I would say often, there might be some sensation in the back, but that it can wrap around and go down where you would feel menstrual cramps low in your pelvis below your belly button. So if you are having, let me know in the chat if you've had Braxton Hicks right now, if you have experienced those, because I know we have people that are due in the next month, a couple weeks, several months. You might have felt sort of an all over tightening of your belly where it feels like the baby's turning, you're not really sure, but kind of just all tight, and you touch and it's like, oh, really tight. Well, when we have contractions that are doing work, that they are going to be low. They're going to be below the belly button. And if you've experienced menstrual cramps, they're going to be down there, down low. So also, if I talk as a doula, talk to my clients and say, you know, where are you feeling it? If they point low, below belly button, okay. If it's like all of this, then it's probably not the real contractions doing that work on our cervix. Okay. Anne says that she, oh my gosh, yes. Yes, definitely. So those Braxton Hicks can be all over. So they're usually feel low. They feel I'm going to give my description for those of you, if you're like, tell me more about what a contraction feels like. I always explain it this way, and sometimes people are a little bit like, oh no. And then it's something that, so I came up with this comparison a lot of times because I used to teach back before I had Supporting Her, which is an online course for partners. I used to teach partner courses, like just for the support people. I loved it. It was awesome in person. And a lot of times I would get the question of like, what does a contraction feel like? And there's all these silly YouTube videos where people, you know, simulate labor. Anyway, we won't talk about this. Here's what is going on. Or you might, if you are a first-time mom, if you are a partner and you don't know what a contraction feels like, if you've ever had, let me know in the chat, have you ever had a Charlie horse or a calf cramp where your calf like all of a sudden just kind of like seizes up and then it takes a little while to kind of let go? So let me know if you guys have felt that. And I'm going to ask or answer a couple questions real quick. Jen says, is it normal to feel Braxton Hicks lower where you were describing the contractions? Yeah, some people do feel them lower, but I would say, are you feeling, you know, it's more common to feel them as an all over tightening. Yeah. Jay says, feeling Braxton Hicks really low. Yeah, that could be. And it might have to do with the position of your baby too. Okay, the Charlie horses, everybody knows the Charlie horses. Yes, especially in pregnancy, Charlie horses can be so bad. You know, you point your toes in the middle of the night and it's like, oh no, here it comes. And then it seizes up. Okay, so a contraction is a little bit like that, but imagine the Charlie horse in super, super slow motion, like super slow motion, like over the period of a whole minute, where it's like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm getting a Charlie horse, and it kind of goes up a little bit, and then it's seizing up more. And then that feeling that you get that is pain, that's at the very top. And then as soon as you go over the top, you already feel the muscle relaxing, and it relaxes all the way down. So our uterus is a big muscle. And so if you kind of picture it like that. That is my example of how a contraction feels. Now, the exciting part, I have on here listed under cool things about contractions. So, cool things about contractions is they are rhythmic. So, they come, they're up, they're down. There's a pause. They come, they're up, they're down. There's a pause. They're predictable. Charlie horses, we don't know. And we might get one and then it relaxes and then we don't know. And then it comes again. Maybe it doesn't fully relax. So they're not rhythmic where we're like, okay, we know the pattern that they're in. Contractions are. Also, the resting phase in between the contractions is golden. I mean, golden. You're going to love the resting phase because when it goes up and down, the down, it's like nothing. It's like us here. Like I could be in the middle of the contraction, labor right now. That when you have the long down periods, it really feels like normal. And it's something that surprises people a lot sometimes, especially I see partners where they're like in between the contractions, she's like totally normal. And, having a conversation, doing a task, and then when the contraction comes, it's like, hold up, take a pause. Now we've got to go. We've got to focus. Right? Do you guys remember this from yesterday? And then rest. So the rest is so key. And the other cool thing is just the fact that once you go over that peak, you're going to come down. So it's very predictable. It's not like if you've ever had a broken bone, a urinary tract infection, a kidney stone, where it's just like pain until who knows when the pain is going to stop. You know that once you get over that hump, I'm on my way to no pain, less pain. Okay, let me check a little bit. Okay, this is a good question. Patty says, probably hard to answer, but how long could it take to determine that contractions are real labor? I don't want to call my husband out of work too early, but also live very far from the hospital. So, Patty, this is a great question because you're leading me to one of my next, and I think by the end of this class, you're going to feel better about this idea. But when contractions are longer, stronger, and closer together, we are in labor. So let's talk about contractions and how to measure them. And this is where I'm going to get up on a soapbox and I'm going to suggest something that some of you might not like. And I'm still going to suggest it because you guys are here listening to a doula childbirth educator who has seen and worked with families over 300 in labor. And so I'm hoping that you'll trust this piece of advice. Okay. I just said contractions when they're longer, stronger, closer together. And you guys have probably heard things like contractions should be 5 minutes apart, or they last a certain amount of time. How long have you been contracting? All of that. Well, we need to talk about frequency and duration of contractions. So when our contractions are, let's say, 5 minutes apart, that's how fast, how often they're coming. That is from the start of one to the start of another. So let's say we have a contraction right at noon. We start the contraction. Maybe the contraction lasts a minute. We have 4 minutes of rest. It's 12:05. Have another contraction. We have 1 minute of a contraction, 4 minutes of rest, 12:10, another contraction. That is a 5 minute apart frequency. Start to start, start to start, start to start. How close are your contractions? 5 minutes apart. That's the frequency. The duration is how long do they last? From the beginning, up that peak and down, how long is that? Is that 30 seconds, kind of like our practice that we've been doing, right? You guys are used to the 30 seconds. We've done 2. We'll do another one today. Practice. Does it start 30 seconds and done? That's the duration. So start of 1 to the finish. And that duration often starts out in the 30-second-ish range when your labor starts. And then as your labor is progressing, when it's closer to go to the hospital, when your body is getting closer to having a baby, when you're making more progress, when we go through our stages of labor that we're going to talk about, the duration starts getting longer and longer, where we're seeing a start and a full minute, or maybe we're seeing a start and a minute and a half, or maybe we're seeing a start and 2 minutes. That can be, especially near those later phases, the active, the transition that we'll talk about, phases of labor. Okay, so here is where my question, my suggestion for you guys is going to come into play, that the one that I think you might not like. It has to do with the phone and tracking things. So as a society, we love tracking. I mean, I love tracking too. I check my steps on my phone. You know, you can track water on your phone. You can track everything on your phone, right? We love our phone. Well, contraction timers are very popular, and they do make things very handy. Let me know in the chat if you've even downloaded a contraction timer already. So with the contraction timer, the way it works is you feel a contraction, you press a big button usually that says, boop, start. You have your contraction. Then when it's over, you press finish. And then you go about whatever you're doing. Another contraction comes, you press start. You have your contraction, you press stop. And then after you have at least 2, it will give you data and say your contractions are 5 minutes apart, lasting a minute. And then over time, it says how long that contraction has been at it. And, you know, it's very exact because it's very exact for what you are pressing. But it'll say like, oh, your contractions are 4 minutes and 2 seconds apart, or, whatever. Yes, most pregnancy apps have one. I actually work with a company called Daddy Up that has one that I actually really like. But I know there's so many out there. Okay. You don't necessarily have to have one. It can make it really easy, but here is the problem, is that many people get fixated with their app. And so much so that they're not really paying attention to other things like, am I relaxed in labor? How is my breathing? Partners get so fixated with hitting it that they forget to go grab water, make sure you're hydrated. To the point that, I've seen moms in labor go into the bathroom and you can hear their breathing kind of like, ooh, or something. So it's like, oh, they're having a contraction in there. And then they'll come out and their partner will be like, did you have a contraction in there? I didn't time it. And then it's like, oh, now it's going to be all off, skewed because I didn't time it. And this app takes away all of the, not all, but a lot of the working with your partner, learning how you're doing, because what I want to make sure that you are able to do, no matter where you are going to be as far as your other pain management choices, whether you're choosing an epidural, IV pain meds, we're going to talk about all those, nitrous oxide, or none. I want to make sure that in the beginning, you are getting really good at managing these contractions with our toolbox, so that when they do get longer, stronger, closer together, you can handle it. And that is really what happens in labor. It's so cool. You see people just sort of level up. It's like a video game, like level up, level up, level up. And I know that you guys have done this probably in your real life too, when you're in your real life, in your non-labor life. Like say you're hiking. I love to compare hike to labor. You know, in the beginning of the hike, you might have just some easy terrain. And if it's a harder hike, you might be going up switchbacks, or you might have rocky terrain or something that's harder. But you have gotten better at the hike, and you can start handling these harder challenges. And so I want you to not be so fixated on what's my contraction duration and frequency, and I must press. I want you to do it a little bit, get an idea, and then go labor. If you see like, or if your partner, whoever's supporting you, sees like, oh, this looks like it's changed. Let me time a couple, grab it again, time a couple, get an idea. You know, if you're trying to figure out when to go to the hospital and if things are getting closer. But do not fixate on the app. What are you guys thinking? Do you think this will be hard for you to put away the app? Are you like all on board because you can understand what I'm saying and I've convinced you well enough? Okay, let's see. Jay says, first time mom question. Do you click stop timing the contraction when the peak pain is over, or when it completely goes away? Because I know you said there isn't much of a start stop. This actually is an awesome question, Jay. I actually super love this question because what I have seen is people doing this wrong, and you do want it. You want to press the stop, or if you're watching a stopwatch, which is old school, seriously, why I have this watch, because I like to watch on a second hand, because I just need to get a little bit of an idea when I'm with someone in labor. You want to stop when it completely goes away. And sometimes I'll watch people when they're timing themselves, and I'll think to myself, like, they're cutting that short. Like either they start late or they stop late. So they probably have longer contractions than the app says. That is generally the case. People have longer contractions than what's on the app, not by much, but a little bit. But yes, you want it when it stops. Yeah. Yay. Anne says that's what my midwife suggested too. I love when someone else is saying the same thing. Very good. Clarissa says, very sensible. I love it. That is something that I try to be, practical and sensible. Yes. Okay, good. Yes. Keep the hubs or doula to help me with that. Yeah. You know, what's interesting to me is, so I attend births with people as a doula, and I also watch a lot of birth vlogs. I actually just put up a video on Tuesday about 5 birth vlogs that I recommend watching if you are interested, or if you've seen it already. But I watch a lot of birth vlogs. I think it's a great way to learn and create my class, and it's a long. We'll chat about it another day. But so many times I see people making this mistake, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I see it on the blogs. I see it in real life. Just don't. Okay. Does timing them matter much, except to know when to go to the hospital? This is also a great question. Ooh, you guys are such a good group. Great question. Okay, Patty and everybody. This is great insight. No, what we want to see is that our labor gets stronger, longer, and closer together. All three, closer together and longer, are something that our app tracks, that we can track on our app. Can we just kind of see, if we had no clock or whatever, we probably could say like, these are coming faster. Because even like, sometimes I'll see people where they'll be doing something in between, like maybe they are packing their bag or taking a shower or something, and they're like, wow, I was only able to pack a couple things before I had another one. Or I used to be able to walk to the bathroom, go to the bathroom, and come back to the chair I was laboring in. And now I can only get halfway to the bathroom and they're coming faster. So now, knowing when to go to the hospital is good. And we're going to talk in depth about that when we talk about early labor. That's what tomorrow night is. So Saturday night, early labor is a must. Please make sure you come for that. But the other thing too, that is a benefit of seeing things get longer, stronger, closer together, is that there are things that we can do to promote labor progressing. What we don't want, or what's not ideal, is a labor that kind of putters around and doesn't get longer, stronger, closer together, because that kind of labor can tire us out. So if we are not seeing any change, we should probably make some changes ourselves to see if maybe we need to hydrate, we need to eat something, we need to change positions. Those are all things, we need to rest, that we could do to help progress our labor. So that was a long answer to your question, Patty, that timing them does matter in that we want to be making progress. So if we compare labor to a hike and we get the baby at the end of the hike, at the top of the mountain, we want to make sure we are going up the path. We don't want to sort of get sidetracked and go on a different path that's just kind of, changing, just making us tired. We want to make forward progress. And that is something in a childbirth class that I am teaching you, and I'm going to keep teaching you about things to do to promote that labor progress. Okay, let me know if that answered the question. Are we on the same page here? That's the hardest thing without seeing you guys all out in my audience or in my class, that I rely on the live chat. So let me know. And I'm going to take a quick sip. Okay, and this is where we are going to actually no. I'm gonna do that tomorrow with early labor. I'm gonna quiz you guys for a second, but I'm gonna do that later. Okay, so we went through our timer do's and don'ts. Excellent. We want that labor. We want to, as we see labor getting stronger, as we see them getting closer together, as we see them getting longer, we want to be happy about it. We want to embrace that. Now, you're going to be working hard, and it's not going to be an easy day. That's why they call it labor. There's a lot of work that has to be done. But we want to embrace that change and that progress. Okay, we got a couple yeps and makes sense. Thank you, Quinn Blog and Clarissa. I appreciate it. So this is that mindset that I talked about of embracing it, of being positive about it. Okay, Jay says, so after about how long into labor should we start being concerned if it isn't progressing the contractions? There's not, I don't really know I don't have a good number of hours. I would say it's not uncommon to stay at a pattern and a normal, a pattern of no change. It's not uncommon to be in a pattern of no change for several hours. So 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. That's not uncommon. But I would say after about 2 hours, I would take a critical look, have partners, whoever's supporting you should be taking a look of what have we not done. And so when I talk about movement, this is something that, is going to be sort of in your checklist of things like I mentioned earlier. Are you hydrated? Have you been eating? Can you rest? Have you changed positions? that you might kind of start working through some of those to see if we can make a change in our progress. Yeah, so that's a good question. It's not uncommon to be several hours at the same pace and no change in contractions. That is not uncommon, especially in the early phase of labor. We could have, 3-4 hours of the same pattern. That makes sense. Yeah. So it can be quite a bit of time. But at the same time, we do want to keep up our healthy strategies. Yes. So this leads me to a question. Quiz time. I am asking a quiz. Average first time labors. Let me know in the chat how long you think an average first time labor lasts. So when labor starts, when we start feeling regular contractions until we have a baby, what would you say is the average? Again, there'll be some that are more, there'll be some that are less, but let me know in the chat which one you think. Okay. And I am going to put on our slides again. And we are going to talk about we're going to talk about the phases of labor. So we've got 10, 12, 16, 12, 8 to 14, 12 to 24. You guys with your range. No fair for adding a range. Okay. 5 to 15, 18. Okay, I saw. Diana says 18. 18 is the number that I usually quote, and I'm quoting research from some time in the past that 18 is about average. So it is a significant amount of time, right? If we took these 18 hours and we broke down what is considered early labor, the vast majority of our labor is called early labor. And let me just start by saying these are terms that I want you to know because you might hear them when you are talking to your healthcare providers, but they have changed over the years, the definition, and it's not an exact science here, and we're not always checking our cervix. So early labor is technically considered from when your cervix is 0 centimeters dilated to 6 centimeters dilated. So out of 10, so it's 60%. It's already, a majority of the dilation. We're not talking about the other, we don't even talk about the other ways the cervix changes when we talk about the stages of labor, but that's what it is. So early labor is the beginning all the way to 6 centimeters. And it used to be 0 to 4 centimeters. And then the American College of OBGYNs decided to change the definition. So early labor, this picture is a good sort of early labor picture where she has a smile. She's probably watching like a favorite show, which is a great thing to do, distraction in early labor. I recommend if you have like that movie, that show that just like, you don't even have to really be watching it. You can like check in every, 4 minutes and just be like, oh, and the one that you quote for one of my clients, it was Dodgeball. She actually loved the movie Dodgeball and we watched it 3 times all the way through. And I had never seen it before. So it was interesting, but everybody has their show or not everybody does, but if you do have something like that, that might be an activity in early labor. So early labor is that time when maybe you're not having to work as hard in the contractions in the beginning. You can still, you're noticing them, but they're not all consuming. That you are still able to have some positive emotion. You're usually excited. It is different for everyone. This could be a a long phase Or you could jump into early labor where you are having to kind of work through the contractions. So it really differs for everybody. And that's that 18-hour range. Some people have the short side and some people have the long side. Yes, not playing dodgeball, watching dodgeball, the movie. Patty says, I'm worried about watching or listening because I'll associate it with pain or trauma. So, Patty, I'm glad you said this because I am someone who I put a lot of emphasis on mindset. And I think the sooner that you're working on your mindset, the better. And so and I'm not going to go too far down this rabbit hole because it is kind of a rabbit hole. I actually am thinking about doing a bonus training about mindset in labor. Let me know if that would be interesting to you guys. It would probably be about an hour where we talk about go deeper into the mindset. But when you said pain and trauma, I want you guys here in this class, you are learning about childbirth. You are learning about your options. You're learning about coping techniques. I want to be setting you up for an experience that might be hard, that might be exhausting, that might be the hardest thing you've ever done, but that you don't experience trauma. And birth trauma definitely happens, and a lot of people experience pain. But if you can compare it to something hard that you've done that's painful, like if you've ever gone on a long hike, or I can't even think of anything besides a hike right now, a marathon runner, and you don't have to be that physically active to be able to do labor. Please let me clarify. But I want you to start thinking of it as normal, what the body does. And I absolutely think you should have all of your favorite things as your coping, and that would not be associated that way. Okay. Oh my gosh. I love the interest in this. Mindset is key. Preparation is key too. Yes. Oh, Anne says 3 times. Great. Okay, cool. So I thought of this today, like wondering if you guys in this group would be interested in that. And I love the interest. So this weekend I will work on that plan because I know that we have some people that are coming up soon. So I'll work on getting that set up. So excellent. Cool. Okay. Yes, Quinn. I love that you said this. I suck at hiking and I've never run a marathon in my life. And you are still going to be able to give birth. Everyone, think about that. If you just like walked into a stadium full of people and you see all these people holding children, they've all different shapes and sizes and ages. And they all gave birth. And so you do not have to be this ultra athlete to be able to give birth. Absolutely. And I tell people, like, I use those analogies, but you don't have to be. Don't worry. I've worked with so many people. I worked with this awesome doctor, and she was incredible. And she said to me, I just want to let you know that I'm the laziest person that you're going to meet. She said, when I work with my clients, I'm always sitting down. I love a rolling chair. I love a stool. I want to sit. And she had an excellent birth and awesome, but it was funny. We had that conversation. Okay. Oh my gosh. It's already 50. Okay. 50 minutes in. We're good. Early labor. We're going to talk all about tomorrow night. I'm a believer that early labor is something that we should really focus on, because if we can get early labor off to a good start, we can move into the harder labors easier. And if you are thinking about choosing a pain management like an epidural or nitrous oxide or IV pain meds, it's usually in the later phases of labor. So I need to, I want us to focus on that early labor. So I love that you guys are happy. I love seeing you guys connect in the chat. That's awesome. Okay. Active labor is technically from 6 centimeters to 8 centimeters. And this is such a great picture because she is looking down and you can tell she is not paying attention to what is going on. She is focused. She's got a job to do and it's labor. Active labor is usually when our contractions are coming less than 5 minutes apart, more in the 3-minute apart or so time frame, and that they're lasting a minute and a half or a minute and a half. So that means contraction starts, minute and a half of the contraction, right? The work, the peak, and then we have a break of maybe 2 minutes. So our break might go from 4 minutes down to 2 minutes. So it is a lot harder work. We usually see the intensity go up in active labor. And that is where we are using these tools and we're probably layering up our tools. We don't just use one tool, we might use 3 or 4. And we're going to talk all about how to layer them. And each time, just like yesterday, we layered 2 together, right? We layered our breathing and our limp and loose. Tonight, we're going to add movement in there. So we are layering our strategies. Yes. Okay. What did, I love this, Kayla. I'm the world's least athletic human, given birth 3 times. Y'all got this. Totally. I completely got this. Okay. Elizabeth says, how early can you get pain control or an epidural? So it does depend on where you're giving birth, on if they have any kind of sort of thresholds to get an epidural. Usually places in North America do not. And I think it's class 7 that we have is all about the epidural. So we don't have long until the epidural, until we talk about the epidural, but I'll go into more depth on that class. Yep. And I'm pretty sure it's class 7. So, but usually you have the ability to get an epidural when you want it. Though I know some places are looking for more of a 4 centimeters, 5 centimeters before you get it. Yeah. Let's see. Amy says, if you have a short labor, do you go through the early stage or you jump straight into active labor? So if you have a short labor, generally you do have an early stage, but it's shorter, and active is fairly quick. Yeah, usually you see that early labor shortened down. Mm-hmm. Or sometimes we see somebody that experiences sort of like a slow build and then boop, like as soon as labor goes, it goes. I've worked with clients like that too. So everything's a little bit different. Okay, so active labor is where we see a lot of people choose an epidural. We see a lot, I mean, if you're thinking about an epidural, the emotions are sometimes heightened, where people are feeling like this is really strong, this is a lot of work, definitely more serious. So sometimes when people are wanting to labor at home for as long as possible, they are looking to go in when active labor starts. And so looking at that kind of seriousness of like, oh, things just got serious, now is the time to go in, is what I, as a doula, really promote and try to, talk to parents about. Okay, the next phase is transition. Clearly, she is working hard. So that's 8 to 10 centimeters. That's when we see our contractions really close together. We're having a rest of maybe 30 seconds in between before another one starts. It's usually a very short time in labor. It can last for 15 minutes. It can last for an hour. It's usually a short time of labor. A lot of times we don't even know that we're in transition until we start feeling the urge to push. And then we say, oh, that must have been transition. There is one sign of emotional sign that can really tell us that contractions are that we're in transition. And that is if people are having the contractions, boom, 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 and they start feeling like they're done. like where they're like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is the worst thing ever. I hate it. And that is an emotional sign that comes up in transition. And it's important to know because sometimes people that are hoping to go without an epidural, they get to transition and they're like, I've had it. I don't want to do it anymore. And then they change their plans and say they want an epidural. And by the time they get the epidural there or get an epidural, it's time to push. So, and we'll talk a little bit more about that with epidural and, you know, kind of things to think about and strategies. But I had a client that she was the perfect definition of this. She came in with her third baby, labor ramped up super fast. We walked into the hospital room and I was like putting my doula backpack down, getting out like my battery operated candles, kind of the things I usually do, kind of had my back turned for what felt like a minute. And I heard the door open. And I thought it was the nurse coming in. It wasn't. It was my client walking out of the door. And I, of course, went after her and was like, hey, what's going on? And she said, I am done. I don't want to be here anymore. And she was walking to the exit of labor and delivery. And her husband and I had to turn her around and say, no, you're having a baby. Like, we need to go back to the room. And I'm not kidding. Her baby was born within about 20 minutes of when she wanted to leave the hospital. So she was classic transition, ready to go or ready to be done. And then pushing comes. So after that pushing, of course, you guys know, I've already said we have a whole class on pushing. Yes. Oh my gosh, Jay, will we discuss Pitocin and inductions? We have 2 days of inductions. And I chose to break it into 2 days because it's a lot of information. And even though many of you will not go through an induction, I want you to all be prepared for inductions. So 2 days for inductions. I know. Isn't that funny? My client. So crazy. Yes. Also, if you have not signed up as to be on the December email list, we have on that class page that I was talking about down here, fill out your information here and I will get you will get an email with the topic list so that you can see what's coming up and all the topics and all of that. Oh my gosh. Okay. Contractions. Whew, we covered a lot. Everybody give a good limp and loose stretch. We are ready to talk about movement. And I cannot believe I've gone a little long. Hope you guys are okay. I know it's Friday night. I'm keeping you a little bit long, but we won't go too far past because movement is excellent. And I have something to show you. Okay. Movement, couple things, couple visuals. Yesterday I put the baby through the pelvis so many times that you guys saw this yesterday, right? Baby has to go through and there is, it's a tight squeeze in there. And that is a lot of work. Baby is designed that way and pelvis is designed. But what is excellent about this pelvis, that not this pelvis, but your pelvis, is that it moves. So it's jointed and it can open one side when you have one leg up, like you're walking, and then the other side. One side, other side. Think about walking. So as you're walking or moving in general, the inlet changes. So you guys see the inlet is like a circle and the outlet changes. So also a different shape. This is our tailbone here, right? So anything that we can do to move up, to change up these helps the baby move down. And that is what we want. And there isn't like a magic formula. I mean, we have tried as childbirth educators and doulas to come up with strategies of like spend this much time in this position, spend this much time in this position. But we don't know what's going on in there. And I like to think of it kind of like this little kid's toy that I have. I don't even know if it's only for kids, but you lay it flat and you're changing directions to try to get the marbles to the center. Did you let me know in the chat if you ever had one of those like little plastic discs that had like a picture and little marbles and little holes in the cardboard, and you had to like move the disc? I don't even know where we got those as kids, or where, I don't know, probably in some like goodie bag or something. But you had to gently kind of move it back and forth to try to get the marble. And if you moved too far, you overshot it. You guys, you know that, right? Okay, Amy and Jenna gave me a yes, yep. Yeah. So that's kind of what I like to think about, what's going on in our bodies in labor with the baby trying to get through this pelvis. We are trying to move in different ways to encourage it, but we're blind to what's going on. So we're kind of just like figuring it out and moving enough to try to make it happen. Okay. Okay. Short side story. Someone in my last class said it's like a Survivor game. So if you watch Survivor, give me a fire emoji in the live chat. And I said, because they always have like those boards or whatever. And I said, it is like a Survivor game. That is kind of what I'm talking about. And then one of the student that suggested that was actually on Survivor. He was on 2 seasons. He came back, and I should try to find the episode. Anyway, that was pretty fun that he was attending class like you guys and had some really real life experience with that. Okay. I know. Diana says people under 30 might not have had it. Yeah, I don't know. I know that my kids have had those little things. So I do know they're still out there. Maybe they took a pause at those things. But Jay says, I'm 19 and I had one. Very good. See, good times. I haven't aged out of the toys yet. Okay, guys. So movement. We want to be moving. We want to help baby get down. And does this mean that we have to be moving nonstop? No, this does not mean nonstop. But what I want you to think about is there's two sort of examples, and you choose which one you can relate to better or think about. First example, have you ever seen a preschool? I've seen it in like preschool. I remember preschools. I remember like any kind of little daycare area with kids. If you've ever seen where they have these little stations, like they have the little kitchen, and then they have the Lego area, and then they have the blocks or something, right? They have different stations. Think about, you want to move through different stations about every 20 to 30 minutes. You want to change things up. Okay. You could also think of it like a circuit at the gym where, you're going to work on your legs for a while. You're going to do some pull-ups, or you're going to do this machine. You're going to do this machine, right? You're going to do this machine. So you're changing it up. So it is a great thing for partners, support people, to know that to encourage movement about every 20 to 30 minutes. Now, movement is something that, changes your pelvis. Not necessarily in a huge way, but we do want something different. So if you're sitting down for 20 minutes, great, then stand up for 20 minutes, or sit on the ball for 20 minutes, or go sit on the toilet for 20 minutes. So different things, hands and knees, walking upstairs. Now, the homework for this class has 2 videos that I made that I think are very helpful. And I've heard, yay, oh, Kayla, I've heard that that those are helpful to even in labor. One of them is are my top 10 positions for labor. So make sure you watch that. I'm going to show you some so that you guys can practice with me. The other one is positions to speed up labor, and those are asymmetrical positions. So with asymmetrical positions, that means your right side is different from your left side. And those are gold, people, gold. Asymmetrical positions can really, really make a difference. So if you're taking notes, you're going to write asymmetrical gold. So check out that video too. Okay, so I'm going to go through 1, 2, 3. 3 of my favorite positions. And these are positions that are like, you know, even if you rotated just through these 3, those would be great. Though one of them is asymmetrical. Okay. So one of the easiest, the one that feels good to everyone. So I'm going to stand up. So if you guys are watching this, stand up with me, and I'm going to move this back just a little bit so you can see a little better. And that is a forward lean. So it's super easy. You can do it on a kitchen counter. You can do it on the back of a couch. You can do it on a hospital bed that you can raise to whatever height feels good to you. You can do it even on your partner's back. Like if you were walking at the hospital and you get a contraction, you can, lean up against your partner. So a forward lean can be done a few different ways. I'm going to lean on my table right here so you guys can see me. So I'm just leaning over. I can keep my head up. I can put my head down like this. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. Put my head down. But I am leaning, and that forward feels good. It feels better to lean forward than it does to lean back when you're in labor. Forward is better. Now, the part that I really want you to look at, which is going to be kind of hard to see, I'm going to put my hands here so you guys can see it. My legs are open. I am not leaning like this, closed legs. I have open legs. Now, let me know why. Well, you guys are practicing. You don't have to get in the chat. I'll tell you, we want open legs because we want our baby to come out. We do not want to close in baby. And I can tell you, just like my client when I told the butt clenching story, that keeping your legs closed sometimes does feel better. Sometimes it feels like, yeah, that kind of against that pain, it kind of like sort of feels good, but we don't want that. We want open. And partners that are watching, using words like nice and open up, allow the baby down. Those are all good words. And then just mirroring and saying like nice and open. Okay. So forward leaning is great. Leaning like this. Now we can add in rhythm with our movement, with our position. So we can add a movement, a rhythm, and a position change. So forward lean is excellent. You can also forward lean against the wall. I'm going to have my back to you guys for a second, but this is great. Leaning against the wall. Again, we want nice open legs. Okay. The next position I want to show you is sitting on a birth ball. So the birth ball is something that I suggest everybody invests in pregnancy, to spend some time on the birth ball every day. It's also great. It's great in labor, but it's great postpartum when you have a baby that needs some movement, but your thighs are really tired from bouncing them and standing. You put them right here on your knee, and you don't want to be sleep deprived, like falling asleep when you do this, but you can just gently hold them like this and bounce, and they love it. It is excellent. In labor, I am more of a fan of big hula hoop circles. one way, hula hoop circle the other way, one way. Now, if this bothers you during a contraction, you can just stop, do some limp and loose, your arms up. After the contraction stops, nice big circles, Love it. Christine likes forward. Oh, Jenna's sitting on her ball. I love it. So Esther, this is a great question. Do these positions work for back labor? I had back pain with my first and wasn't prepared for that. So back labor, anything that is forward leaning with pressure on your back is usually the best thing for back labor. So for back labor, if you are leaning forward and someone is putting pressure here, that's a good one. Hands and knees, which I cannot obviously do that here, but that's another one good for back labor as well. Yep. Okay. I have an answer for you, and I will get to that in just 1 second. I wanted to show you my top position for labor that's asymmetric, and we call it Captain Morgan after the spiced rum. My husband the other night said, "What's that position? Is it called the pirate position?" And I said, "Well, you're close, Captain Morgan." So Captain Morgan is, we've got one leg with a foot open that way, and this leg with a foot open that way. And we can do a little bit of a lunge and open up our pelvis that way. This asymmetrical position is like my go-to. If I cannot remember who asked the awesome question, was it Jay? Or I don't know who asked the question about how long do we need to change things, stay if we see something that's unchanged. This is like asymmetrical is my go-to when there's unchanged. And I'm going to tell you, if you're practicing this with me or practice it after class or tomorrow, this can be intense. And it especially can be intense if you are experiencing a contraction, and that is okay. Sometimes these positions are, we might only do this for 3 contractions or 2 contractions. We might not do the full 20 minutes, but still give it a try. So birth ball. Okay, it was you. Birth ball, forward leaning, and asymmetric like the Captain Morgan are excellent, all excellent, really good. You don't need, you need the ball, but it's not, they're easy is what I'm trying to say. Like you don't need some kind of special training to use these positions. Okay. Question. Oh, Anne says, how do we know if the ball is the right size and the inflation? So the vast majority of people fit a 65 centimeter size. So if you are, I think it's under 5'2", you would do the 55. And if you are over 5'10", you would do the 75. 5'9", 5'10", 75. If you were like 5'3", maybe you would do, or under, you would do the 55. But 65 is the one that fits most people. And you want it inflated so that it is somewhat soft to the touch. You don't want it super hard, but that is more of a comfort, what feels good for you. So great question. And you want an anti-burst ball. So you want to make sure that I would not buy a ball unless I knew that it was anti-burst, which is why I put that one ball as my featured ball, because I know that one is anti-burst, so that it's really high quality plastic. Yeah, something to think about. Okay, guys, we have, I think it's time for us to do our 30 seconds and practice. So I'm pulling up my 30-second counter. Here is what I suggest. Choose one of those 3 positions, whether you're forward leaning on something, if you have a ball and you're sitting on it, or if you have a chair or something and put your foot up on a couch for the Captain Morgan. I suggest doing our arms up So we can, really be limp and loose. And then, of course, we're going to do our slow breath in and our slow breath out for our 30 seconds. And then I'll meet you guys in the toolbox after that. Okay, here we go. Here comes that contraction. I see the start coming. Oops. No, not yet. Oh, almost. Here it comes. Oops, let me move my tripod. I started writing movement, and we have now done a 3-layer strategy. So that is a significant coping technique that we have already learned, to have those 3 layers of limp and loose, breathing, and movement. So I hope that 30-second practice felt good to you. Let me know in the chat which one you tried, which position of those 3. Also, if you have not hit that like button, will you hit it for me? And some reason that helps YouTube show this video to more people. Also, if you ever are watching a video in the homework and you can leave a comment, that is also really helpful. Even if you leave a comment and say, doing my homework, or, hey, Alice, got my homework done. It really, it's great. It really, it's just also really fun for me to get those comments to see you guys are doing your homework. So, yes, Christine, yes. The 30 seconds do go by quicker every night. I hope, because you're building up. You're building all these up. Diana says, I did the pirate with horse lips. I love it. I love it. That's a good combo. Captain Morgan, horse lips. That's so good. Okay, guys. So movement, make sure you check out those homework videos that go through the different positions. I really recommend trying those out. Also, if you have not gotten a book, I will be tomorrow, Saturday. I shipped some out today. I will ship them out again tomorrow, because I am a believer that the book is a really good value for the $14 that it is, as well as the recordings, because you can practice the recordings. And okay, last thing I want to tell you before we go is that tomorrow, Saturday night, I'm doing a giveaway. So tomorrow I am giving away one of these custom totes, and you can specify what you want to say on the tote bag. I think it's a great idea to put all of your tools, like if you are bringing battery operated candles. We're going to talk about things to pack in your bag, if you're wondering. I have my own list to tell you, but any of your tools, like for laboring, I like to put them in a separate bag to make them easy to get to in labor. So tomorrow we're going to do a giveaway for a bag. So make sure that you show up. I got to have a little motivation. I don't have to, but I like to motivate people to show up and hang out with me on Saturday night. So in order to be in the drawing for the tote bag, you have to be able to use the live chat. So the live chat is I have a tool that pulls from the live chat. So if you are watching this on your YouTube TV and you are not in live chat, tomorrow's a great day to be in live chat. Okay, what else? Thanks for being here. Again, links below, links to the directory, links to support the channel with the Buy Me a Coffee. Any questions you have, you guys know how to get in touch with me at Alice@BirthToolbox. And until then, until tomorrow night, I hope you guys are continuing to hydrate and to practice your breathing. And hopefully tomorrow I will have an idea about that mindset workshop and do some thinking on that tomorrow. So that would be great to get that started. So awesome. Great hanging out with you guys. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.